right now on Global News at 11.
2 more SARS deaths, including Canada's youngest victim yet. Plus,
I had tears streaming down my face.
a miracle rescue, how this 2-year-old almost died.
This is Global News at 11 with Leslie Roberts and Jacqueline Molcharek.
Good evening. A troubling new development tonight in a fight against SARS. International scientists gathered here to exchange research have discovered that it is possible to be SARS positive and not show signs of the disease.
Now, the new development comes as Ontario records 2 more SARS deaths, including the youngest Canadian victim so far. Let's go to the newsroom. Global's Molly Finley has the latest in our top story. Molly.
Well, Leslie, the 2 deaths announced today, a 39-year-old man and a 72-year-old man, bring the Canadian death toll to 23. Health officials say these men were both very sick. They'd been in intensive care units for several weeks, so they're not surprised by their deaths. But what is surprising tonight is some very interesting new scientific research on SARS. There's a new twist in the SARS plot tonight. Scientists at Canada's National Lab in Winnipeg have discovered that many people who didn't show symptoms of SARS and who weren't diagnosed with the disease have tested positive for the virus.
It's a bit worrisome, worrisome because it could mean that people that we don't detect are in the community with the virus.
But Dr. Lowe says this research may also be good news. If it's true that many more people were walking around with SARS, then in some cases it may be much less contagious than we all think.
This virus, once it's out of the hospital setting, once it's out of close-knit families like the BLD community, it just doesn't have the ability to transmit like other important viruses like influenza do.
The new finding was presented as part of a 2-day SARS conference being held in Toronto, bringing infectious disease experts from across Canada and the globe to learn more about SARS and how our community has handled it.
Toronto was a textbook example once the case was discovered, because then infection control procedures appear to have worked excellently. The communication to the public was excellent, and the number of cases diminished immediately. Toronto was unlucky in that it had one of the early cases of SARS.
We may have been unlucky, but our misfortune in Toronto has helped hundreds of experts around the world learn more about this disease that's now become the new normal.
Molly, as far as those 2 SARS deaths recorded today, numbers 22 and 23 in the GTA, are the experts able to trace those cases?
Well, yes, they are. The younger man contracted it while he was at Scarborough Grace Hospital, part of that original cluster that we're always hearing about. The older gentleman contracted SARS while traveling in Asia. So the good news here, neither case contracted because of any kind of community spread. Jackie?
Okay, thank you, Molly. A rare show of unity at Queen's Park tonight over SARS. All 3 political parties unanimously passed a bill meant to protect workers and businesses hardest hit by the health emergency. The legislation offers greater job security to people sidelined by the virus and tax breaks to lure tourists. It also gives more power to public health authorities who need to enforce quarantine orders. As a condition of the WHO dropping its travel advisory, Toronto will have to step up its airport screening procedures. And among the new changes announced today by Ottawa, having all passengers leaving Toronto and Vancouver answer a health questionnaire before being allowed to depart. Passengers on board international flights coming in and out of Pearson will also be shown an educational SARS video.
There are going to be a fair number of very irate people. You could be Robert Milton, but in fact, if you've got an elevated temperature and you're pulled over, well, you're going to answer the questions, and somebody's going to make a decision as to whether you're going to be able to proceed and board that flight.
Another new change, the addition of thermal imaging technology in all Canadian airports. Global's Nathan Downer got a sneak peek at the new gadgets waiting to greet passengers at Pearson Airport today.
Take a look at this new weapon, which may be used to fight SARS. It's a thermal imager. It's only the size of a flashlight, and it has the ability to spot someone who has a temperature above normal, which is one of the symptoms of SARS.
What the camera does is it calculates temperature that is emitted by the target, or in this case here, the human skin. We translate that into a thermal image, and then the thermal image is broadcast onto a screen.
The temperature of a healthy person's face is usually about 37 degrees Celsius. So although this camera cannot diagnose SARS, it can detect people with high temperatures.
His crosshair, that center of crosshair, its temperature just spray in the hair.
This is another type of thermal screening device from a Vancouver company. As you can see, the man in the middle of the screen is lighter and visibly warmer than his companions, which means he could have a fever. After meeting with delegates from Canada, the World Health Organization agreed to lift the travel advisory after Health Canada promised that thermal screening devices will be put in place in airports across the country. Singapore already uses this technology, and Health Canada says it will be used at airports in Canada in the coming weeks. This is Global's Nathan Downer reporting.
And still with SARS tonight, Tony Clement arrives home to a hero's welcome today. A standing ovation as the health minister joins the legislature during the throne speech. Clement came straight from the airport, arriving from Geneva, where he led the Toronto contingent in convincing the World Health Organization to lift the travel advisory on Toronto.
The doctors, nurses, other medical professionals, they laid the groundwork. You know, I was a messenger perhaps, but if they had not done their jobs properly, we wouldn't have had a hope in heck.
Despite his humility, Clement has received good reviews for his handling of the SARS crisis.
And overseas, China is being overwhelmed tonight by its SARS outbreak. Today, Beijing reported 11 new SARS-related deaths, bringing the latest toll to 75. Barry Peterson has that story.
In Beijing, now the hardest hit SARS city in the world, officials today call the situation, in their word, severe. They cautioned against their word, panic. They admitted that hospitals are overwhelmed and running out of drugs. It was a dose of honesty from a government that covered up the SARS outbreak here for months. But people here have trouble believing anything from a government that openly lied about SARS. It's led to violence against authorities. At a small village outside Beijing, thousands rioted and then destroyed a school building that officials were trying to set up as a SARS treatment center. This university is locked down because some students have SARS, so all its students are among 10,000 Beijing residents now under quarantine. At another university, still open but monitoring students going in and out, one American who teaches English is a rare voice of calm.
I don't feel particularly worried about it. It's not like it's some kind of disease where everybody's dying.
Authorities can't stop price gouging at local markets or at pharmacies where medicine prices have doubled. To fight stress, Beijing opened a new front in the SARS war, a mental health hotline. Callers are frightened, depressed, seeking what this city has little of, peace of mind. I drink every day and smoke more, says this taxi driver. It helps with the stress. It's an open secret here that many people with symptoms aren't going to a hospital or reporting themselves. They distrust the doctors and communist officials who hid the truth from them, more than they fear the disease itself. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Beijing.
And the economic impact of SARS will mean cuts at Air Canada will be deeper than first thought, up $50 million now to $700 million. The airline is in the midst of restructuring, wanting to cut 18% of costs to emerge solvent and avoid bankruptcy. The new cuts were announced in Montreal today as management met with union leaders for the first time since filing for bankruptcy protection on April 1st.
The airline may be in deep financial trouble, but Canada's economy is getting a boost tonight thanks to some new numbers out today. The country's gross domestic product expanded by 0.2% in February for an annual rate of 2.4%. The good news helped the loonie. It gained 46 basis points, almost half a cent. Today, closing at 69.76 cents U.S., and that is the Canadian dollar's highest level in 5 years.
Well, perhaps you are among the many up late tonight, crunching numbers to meet the taxman's midnight deadline. Last year, 6 million returns were submitted on April 30th, the last day, and this year will be no different. Wait until tomorrow and you face a penalty of 5% of what's owed and 1% every month after that. But if you file via the internet, you get an extension.
A much better system than before. We electronically file probably 70% of our returns. There's still 30% of our client base that wants paper, needs paper, and wants to send in paper.
Well, as he said, 70% of returns are now cyber-filed, 30% the old-fashioned way on forms that are mailed in.
And just how important is your income tax to the federal government? Well, very. In the last fiscal year measured, Ottawa took in almost $119 billion in income tax. Now, that accounted for more than 61% of the government's total revenue. Income tax was introduced in Canada in 1917 and was supposed to be a temporary measure.
All right, let's go downtown on a field trip tonight. Is our meteorologist, Michael Coos. Michael.
And happy to be on one, although it is a little wet out here. We're down on Queen Street downtown, and it is a little wet. We have some light showers coming down. I have a bit of a bad news sandwich for you, that's actually good news because it's good news. Sandwich in the middle, which is the bad news, and then the bread on the other side, more good news. This is what we're looking at. Right now, we have some light drizzle. The good news is the heavy precipitation has remained mainly down across the south and west. The good news is that we're expecting to see some warmer weather on the way. The bad news is we have another little wave of rain pushing in, and then potentially some more thunderstorms for later tomorrow. Right now, we're at 8 degrees. Tomorrow morning, the temperature will rise. I'm calling for a morning temp of about 11 degrees. Nice into the afternoon and a good-looking weekend. All those details coming up. Back to the desk.
Coming up on Global News, a show of solidarity in Chinatown tonight after the speech from the throne.
And this 2-year-old's miracle rescue will tell you how it happened. Ontario's Lieutenant Governor has an extra special reason to celebrate in Chinatown tonight. He sat down for dinner with Chinese-Canadian leaders at the Lee Garden restaurant after delivering the speech from the throne today. James Bartleman says he also wanted to show it is safe to visit the downtown neighborhood.
I think symbolic that the representative of the Queen comes to celebrate the lifting of the WHO ban on Toronto. So it's all sorts of things came together today.
Now, Chinatown businesses were pleased to see Bartleman stop by for dinner tonight, but they say traffic in their stores and restaurants is still down dramatically since the SARS outbreak.
And that speech from the throne came after a 138-day Christmas break. So the provincial politicians went back to work today and heard an outline of the Eves government's priorities in what could be the last session before an election. Here's our Queen's Park reporter, Graham Richardson.
After a disastrous budget experiment, the polar opposite today at Queen's Park. This was a time for tradition. Lieutenant Governor James Bartleman rode the horse-drawn landau, a carriage that has been mothballed since 1993. All throne speeches try to set the tone for the future for government, and this one did too, but it began with the disease that has consumed the province for weeks.
These men and women are turning the tide in Ontario's battle against SARS and proving to the world that Ontario is a safe place to live in and visit.
But there were other interesting smaller items too, like getting out of Toronto. The government will now schedule regular cabinet meetings around the province. And speaking of the road, apparently the grass is getting too long around Ontario's highways, and there's too much litter. And so the province will be firing up the lawnmowers, cutting back and trimming down in a beautification project. And something that perhaps has been a long time coming, a promise to stop prisoners from harassing their victims' families while sitting in provincial institutions. The province says it will bring in call monitoring and blocking in provincial jails. And fitting with this government's support of the war effort in Iraq, the speech suggests the OPP may be sending a contingent to Iraq to help.
This is Global's Graham Richardson reporting.
And no surprise here, just as quickly as the throne speech came down, so too did the criticism.
Well, you know, I can tell you that people are looking for real positive change. Our plan offers that. This speech does not. And sure, they've taken a lot of our ideas, but they lack the commitment and they lack the depth.
This is the amnesia throne speech. The government that cut our schools, that cut the nurses, that cut health care, that cut environmental protection, now wants you to believe that on the eve of the election, they're going to put it all back.
All right, to the kind of story we love to tell now. A dramatic rescue of a toddler by 2 police officers who are now heroes to a Toronto mom. Here's Global's Alan Carter.
A happy reunion for 2 Toronto police officers and 2-year-old Rachel Riddell. The last time they were together was Sunday, when the officers helped save the toddler's life after she'd fallen into a pond.
My life flashed before my eyes. First thing I thought was somebody took her. Somebody came to the backyard and took her. She doesn't wander off. Little did I know today, she did.
Rachel's home is just up on the hill here, and her mother says she only went inside for a couple of minutes, but it was long enough for the little girl to wander out into the golf course, come down here to the pond, and fall into the water. Rachel's neighbor was the first to spot her floating in the pond. He jumped in and carried her to shore.
but just trying to revive her anyways. I didn't know if she was alive or whatever. And I just put her on her side and started pressing her chest and stuff, and then some water started coming out, and then the other officer showed up.
Constables Davies and Woodenberg, both relatively new to the force, administered CPR. Within a few minutes, Rachel began crying.
Music to my ears. I just wanted to cry right there with her. It was just amazing sound.
When we showed up, there's no reaction out of her. She was quiet, and then when she started to cry, it was first faint, and then when she was crying so loud, I had tears streaming down my face. All the other officers, they had tears coming down too. It was just the best noise you could hear.
There are now new locks on all the gates in Riddell's backyard, security measures to ensure Rachel doesn't wander away again.
I will never go in and get her a juice again. She will follow me even to the bathroom. I'm not leaving her in the backyard alone for a minute.
This is Global's Alan Carter reporting.
Life-saving experts are also celebrating that youngster's rescue, but admit happy endings like that one are rare. Every year in Ontario, more than 140 people die in water-related tragedies, and young toddlers are among the highest risk group. It takes less than 20 seconds for a child to drown, and even the smallest amount of water on a pool cover could be deadly.
Pool cover is like an air mattress. They fall down very quickly, and on occasion there's been a terrible tragedy that way. So make sure your backyard gates are locked. Make sure the access points from the house are restricted and locked. And if you're near a large body of water like a lake or a creek, make sure your children are right there close to you, because it can happen very, very quickly.
Turning to health news now, and important information tonight for parents. Queen's Park is expanding its list of vaccines covered by the province's drug plan. Despite the additions, some in pediatrics say it's still not enough. Our Christine Crosby has that story now.
Lauren Naiman is a typical 8-year-old, but when she was 19 months old, what started out looking like a cold ended up with dramatic consequences.
She spent 10 days in the hospital, and after that, she came home with a lot of issues. She couldn't walk anymore. She couldn't pick herself up. We didn't know at the time she couldn't hear either.
Lauren had pneumococcal meningitis. Not long after, her mother Nicole found out that a vaccine could have prevented the illness and Lauren's deafness. That vaccine, Prevnar, will now be covered by the province, but only for high-risk children under age 2. That's not enough, says pediatrician Norman Bluestein.
We would hope that it would be covered for all children. Most severe pneumococcal disease occurs in healthy children, even though there's a much higher risk if you are in one of the higher risk groups.
Another vaccine called Adacel will also be covered for all youth between 14 and 16. It's a whooping cough booster combined with diphtheria and tetanus. Streptococcus pneumonia bacteria can lead to blood infection, pneumonia, ear infections, and meningitis. Each year in Canada, 15 children under age 5 die because of it. 65 get meningitis, and 700 get blood infections. The vaccine will be covered for children who have immune problems, asthma, and other underlying conditions. But children attending group daycare may also be at increased risk. The vaccine costs roughly $100 a shot. Infants require up to 4 vaccines. Many parents without a drug plan may not be able to afford it. The province plans to spend $5.6 million for the 2 vaccines, covering about 100,000 children starting in September. This is Global's Christine Crosby reporting.
I bet you Michael cried when he got his booster shot.
It's been a while. I can't really remember the last time.
Get Mrs. Coos on the phone. We want to know.
Okay, all right. She'll be in town soon enough. You can talk to her then.
Okay.
What we're looking at tonight, 8 degrees is where we are sitting. We do have some cloud cover, and on top of that, some showers. But as we look above at this gray sky, a slightly precipitating sky, we are expecting to possibly see this really open up tomorrow afternoon. I will tell you when we could see heavier downpours tomorrow and what it looks like as we head into the weekend. All those details coming up.
All right, Michael, still ahead on Global News. Dogs gone so cool, they've got to wear shades.
This evening's program didn't start with the arrival of the guests, the choosing of the snacks, or with the dimming of the lights.
Show's about to start.
It started with a trip to Canadian Tire.
These even fold up, so you can take them just about anywhere.
And a desire to have the best seats in the house. Funny how where you end up has a lot to do with where you start.
Coming up in Global Sports, devilish play as Scott Stevens returns to the Jersey lineup and is the difference in Game 4 with the Bulls.
There's no ducking the issue. Anaheim must win tonight. Home ice for first to Dallas.
Can T-Mac come up with enough magic to push Orlando past Detroit in the first round? We shall see.
Kind of look forward to having a few different teams make a Stanley Cup run, but here we are, end of April. April's gone, and so too soon to be. It looks as if the Tampa Bay Lightning. Nice run while it lasts.
Are you saying the Lightning will bolt for the golf course?
And if they don't, I will.
Yes. Oh, I know you will.
Been there, yeah.
Yeah. Believe me, it's not too early for this. You can start to look for the eventual Stanley Cup winner even at this point. You look for a team that doesn't like to make life difficult for itself, a team that appears to control its own destiny, and that sounds like the New Jersey Devils. They had no trouble with the Bruins in 5 games in round 1 and are now just a win away from completing a 5-game series with Tampa in round 2. Just like that. It's unbelievable. There he is, Captain Scott Stevens, back in the lineup tonight with some protection for his left ear. Game 3 hero Andrushak turns it over to a chance for Scott Gomez, picks the opportune time to score his first of the playoffs, less than 5 minutes in. 1-0 for New Jersey, but the Lightning fight back to tie later in the first. Richard centers it back to Jason Cullimore, the stay-at-home defenseman. Scores from way back there, and it was 1-1. But the Devils regain their lead a few minutes later. Gomez feeds Patrick Eliash, who whips one past Nikolai Habibulin. Eliash with his first, and it's 2-1 Devils after 20. In the second, it's Stevens with a rare turnover in his own end. A rare turnover, he said. Turnover, yes. Prospel to Fedotenko. Purdue with a stop. Stevens with the stop, and Dan Boyle. Devils took the 2-1 lead into the third, and that turnover. In the third, Gianni gets hit in the head by a point shot. He was dazed and confused, but he would continue. And he was cross-checked in the play, so Saric goes to the box with a penalty. Yeah. Moments later in the power play, Jersey takes advantage off the draw. Stevens with a point shot off the iron, his second of the playoffs. The captain making an impact after missing most of Game 3. And yes, he would help the Devils to a 3-1 win and a 3-1 series lead. It's a good thing that turnover didn't cause any problems. Anyways, Gomez, Eliash, and Stevens. Purdue 25 saves. Cullimore with his first. Devils have the 3-1 series lead. Post-game comments starting with the captain, Scott Even Stevens.
My head felt good, my hands felt good, my legs felt a little light. My legs didn't feel great. I guess I haven't played for a while and maybe just laying around all day yesterday, but I got through it. And like I said, I think the guys in here made things a lot easier for me. They played very well. I made some mistakes and they covered up for me.
Our guys played hard. Don't just look at the score. Our guys played hard tonight, and again, there wasn't too many chances by either team for 2 periods there. They get a few chances. We start taking some chances to get up the ice to get back in the game after it's 3-1. But after that, it was pretty much nip and tuck for both teams.
And the Bolts still in the dark as to what happened in Game 4. Game 5, oddly enough, Friday night. Tampa, New Jersey, and that's it for the Bolts. Sorry.
Couldn't blame it on a lightning storm, that's for sure. Speed bumper, brick wall. The Anaheim Ducks will find out tonight whether that loss in Game 3 broke the spell or was just the exception to the rule. One way or the other, Dallas Stars know at least the Ducks can be beaten going into Game 4 in Anaheim tonight as the crew gently naps. Mike Modano and the Stars hoping the team can break down Korea and the Ducks. Once again, first period action. Anaheim tries to forget about last game's loss. Put the heat on early. Rob Niedermeyer with a shot. Marty Turco the save. Looking sharp early on. A few minutes later, the Ducks make another run. Sergei Zubov turns it over to Korea. Winds and fires. But Turco there to make the save again, and Korea can't believe it. He's been in a slump. Only 2 in the postseason. Going into the third, Turco would slowly become the story of the game. This time, gets some help from the D and from the iron as it goes off the crossbar and out. Babcock, wait, who put that net in there? We can lower that net. Well, we can raise it. Home ice advantage. We should be using these things. As it is, 0-0 in Game 4. Ducks lead the series 2-1 They will be going back to Dallas for Game 5 on Saturday. World Hockey Championships today. The winners, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and the Ukraine. Canada's next game, not till Friday morning when they'll face Denmark. They're 3-0 going into the fourth game of the qualifying round.
Canadian flag getting squeezed there.
A little bit.
It was a top 3 day for the NHL. The league announcing its awards, its annual awards finalists, the top 3 in each category. Ladies and gentlemen, we present the annual top 3 awards. Drum roll. Yes, it's there. Oh, pretty cheesy.
The band.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Hot down. Anyways, Brodeur, Belfour, and Turco, finalists for the Vezina. Brodeur can make it 4 times in 7 years that a goalie wins both the Hart and Vezina trophies. Brodeur led the league with 41 victories, a .202 goals against average. Belfour won the Vezina in 91 and 93. It is his first nomination for the award since 95, set a Leaf record with 37 victories and had a goals against average of .226. Turco played his first full season after taking over from the Eagle in Dallas, led all goalies with a scintillating 172 goals against average and a .932 save percentage. That's the Marty Turco story. Hart Trophy finalists, Forsberg from the Avs, Marcus Naslund from the Canucks, and Martin Brodeur from the Devils. Lady Byng finalist, the Whistle Stop Award, Alexander McGillney, Mike Modano, and Nicholas Lidstrom.
Alan Norris Trophy finalists for top defenseman Nick Lidstrom of the Wings, the Stars' Darian Hatcher, free agent to be, and the veteran Al McInnes, still great after all these years. Calder Trophy, the other end of the spectrum, the rookies Barrett Jackman, the D-man for the Blues, left winger Henrik Zetterberg of the Detroit Red Wings, and Rick Nash of the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Selke Trophy finalists for the top defensive forward. Yari Leitner of the Stars, the Devils John Madden, and center Wes Waltz of the Minnesota Wild. And the Adams Trophy finalist for Coach of the Year, Jacques Martin of the Ottawa Senators. #1 overall, Jacques Lemaire of the Wild, doing a tremendous job this season. And the Lightning's John Tortorella. Notably absent Mike Babcock, even though the Ducks improved by a league best 26 points this season. For the latest playoff news and notes on a postseason fantasy pool that pays off after every round, go to the net. Log on to faceoff.com. Hockey lives here. Round 1 of the NBA playoffs has reached the elimination stage. The possibility looming large in Detroit as the Pistons host Orlando in Game 5 tonight. T-Mac and the Magic up 3-1 in the series. T-Mac leading all scorers in the playoffs, averaging more than 36 a game. But not tonight. It was the Pistons' turn. Cliff Robinson to Michael Curry to Ben Wallace wide open underneath for the stuff. 26-13 Pistons after 1. More from Detroit in the second quarter. Tayshaun Prince going to work on Pat Garrett. He hits the foul, hits the shot and the foul as the Pistons took a 50-37 lead at the break early in the third. Magic make a run. T-Mac inside to Drew Gooden for the stuff. That cuts the Pistons' lead to 8, but the Pistons regroup. Chauncey Billups misses the 3, but Rip Hamilton, wide open underneath, gets his own rebound, scores 2 of his game-high 24. Pistons led it by 18 on the way to a 98-67 final. The Magic unbelievably flat. Chance to advance to the second round by the boards. They'll go to Game 6 Friday in Orlando. The Magic continue to lead the series, but now it's 3-2. Ben Wallace dominating on the boards tonight, 21 to go along with his 14 points.
All right, Hornets and Sixers in Game 5, and Mashburn returned tonight just in time to help his team get in the playoffs facing elimination. First quarter action, Hornets trailing by 4. Mashburn lets everybody know he's back. His shot from behind the arc is good for 3. And let's check it out here. Allen Iverson answers back in second to preserve the Philadelphia lead. Iverson finds an open spot on the far side. His jumper good for 2 and helps the Sixers to a 3-point lead at the half. In the third quarter, New Orleans begins to chop away at the Philly lead. David Wesley gets to the perimeter undetected for 3 of his 10. And in the fourth, it's the Sixers that find themselves chasing the lead, down by 3. Iverson takes a shot from downtown, on target for 3 of his game-high 30, and the game is all tied up. But with a minute remaining, New Orleans gets a break that the Sixers would be hard-pressed to recover from. Lynch puts the rebound in from underneath. He would score 12 in the fourth alone, helping New Orleans survive a close one and force a Game 6 in the series. The Sixers were leading 3-1. It's now 3-2. 93-91 was the final. Jamal Mashburn, 21 points, 6 helpers. Allen Iverson, 30 points and 7 helpers. And by the way, Jamal McGlure, 17 points and 12 rebounds for the double-double. We'll have the Western Conference action for you later in tonight's broadcast. The Raptors have long since been idled, but the work has already started on next season. There's a new coach to be hired, and then there's the NBA draft. Laurie Belanger chatted with Raptors general manager Glenn Grunwald today on what lies ahead.
Raptors GM Glenn Grunwald has a lot on his plate right now, from scouting prospects for the upcoming draft to hiring a new head coach.
It gets to be one of the busiest times, yes, particularly this year, because this year we're looking for a new head coach, and that is in addition to the normal preparation of getting our players ready for off-season training and development and preparing for the draft.
Well, the process of finding a head coach to replace Lenny Wilkens is a priority. It's not at the top of Grunwald's list right now.
You know, it's one of the top things, but, there's no great time frame. We have to be ready on June 26th to make sure we draft the right player or make the right trade, whatever it might be. That's a deadline we have to work with. In terms of the head coach, there's no firm deadline. Ideally, it'd be before the draft because you'd like the coach to have some input into what's going to happen in the draft.
With the NBA draft lottery just 3 weeks away, Glenn Grunwald is traveling to Greece tomorrow to get his final look at Darko Milicic. The 17-year-old 7-footer is projected as a top 3 pick in this year's draft, which would make him available for the Raptors.
Our European scout has seen him too many times to count. And then after that, Bob Zafalato will travel to Europe the following week, and he'll see him play at least twice as well.
As usual, Grunwald is preparing for any scenario that could arise at the June draft, and that includes the team's 15% chance of getting the #1 pick.
Yes. We have stores of good luck. We've used up all of our bad luck.
A #1 pick could land the Raptors' high schooler LeBron James, a player who could fill the 2 spot, currently occupied by Vince Carter.
And we'll figure that out if and when that happens. I don't think you can let your current roster situation dictate, missing a really good player.
It's possible that Carter will be the Raptors' representative at the draft lottery on May 22nd, which could be the launching pad for a lot of speculation if the team does manage to win the top pick. Lori Belanger, Global Sports.
When Global Sports returns, the King is back.
And the Jays revisit that empty field.
Elvis Stojko back in the ice today, preparing for his return to competitive figure skating. The 3-time world champion, 2-time Olympic silver medalist, attempted triple axels for the first time in 4 or 5 months at the arena in Barrie that bears his name. As for the comeback, he said it was just the right time.
For 4 years, from 98 to 02, getting up out of the bed and trying to get to the rink was a chore. And I wanted to make sure that I would have that drive back and that fire back before I ended my career totally. And I didn't know if ever would come back or when, and it just happened to be this year.
One big change for Stojko will be a new coach. He will train full-time with Linda Bridge, who also coaches national junior champion Ken Rose, and she says it's all about a fresh new start.
Everybody says, do you have unfinished business? And I think this is new business for Elvis. He's got a different drive. He's sharper than ever. His work ethic is bar none phenomenal. He still has more to add to the sport, to himself, and this is the new Elvis.
The baseball now, the supply was about the same, but demand fell off rather sharply when Blue Jays tickets returned to their normal price levels. In fact, the only lineups tonight involved Texas Rangers waiting to cross the plate as the Jays dropped a second straight at a primarily empty Sky Dome. 48,000 plus to just over 16 tonight. Top of the second, Canyon Sturts to Juan Gonzalez. That's into the largely unoccupied second deck, 9th of the year for Gonzo. The Rangers led it by 2. Top of the third, Rangers by 4. 2 men on. Einer Diaz lines it over short. Palmeiro scores from third easily. Shannon Stewart guns it home. Myers forgot the ball. Ruben Sierra safe at the plate. 6-0 Texas. Sturts 3 in the third. 6 earned runs, 11 hits, and he's gone. Bottom of the fifth, Rangers get a little sloppy themselves. Ryan Drees with a wild pitch. Gerald Laird blocks it. Laird tries to pick out Vernon Wells. Throws it into center field. Wells to third. Ryan Christensen tries to get him there. Gets away. Past Hank Blaylock up the line. So Wells trots home, and the Jays finally have a run. They're trailing by 6 as Wells kind of yucks it up in the dugout for some unknown reason. Top of the ninth, 8-2 Rangers. Calvin Escobar on in relief. Men at first and second. Michael Young. Fuel to the fire. 3-run shot. Young second of the season. 11-2 Texas on the way to an 11-3 final. Juan Gonzalez, Michael Young, Carl Everett with a couple of runs batted in. The big offensive performers. Attendance 16,021. Toronto's record 11-17. Their worst April level. What's that? 10-18. I had it 11-17. I was wrong. 10-18, that makes it even worse. So 10 wins, 18 losses. Their worst April ever. Now with a post-game report, Global Sports' John Bell.
Well, about 32,000 fewer fans than last night witnessed another horrific pitching performance by the Toronto Blue Jays. Texas has scored 27 runs on 35 hits over these first 2 games, and they showed why they are the 7th best hitting team in the American League. For the 3rd straight game, Toronto fails to get a start into the 4th inning, and the Jays now fall to 2-3 on this 9-game homestand.
Like I said, I think we ran into a really hot team right now, and it's been tough on us. You know, I feel bad for our bullpen right now. They've been picking up a lot of innings for us, but, you know, I think it'll turn around quickly. I think Doc's going to have a great game tomorrow.
No, it's unfortunate. When we make mistakes with our pitches, we give up home runs, and we need to have somebody step up and take us deeper into the game.
We have some pretty talented guys, especially in the middle of our lineup, and when they get hot, they can really carry us for a long stretch of time. So, you know, if we can all get hot at the same time, we know we can do some good things on offense.
Now, this basically sums up how bad Toronto's pitching situation is. Earlier today, the Jays acquired Doug Davis from Texas off waivers. The left-hander wasn't good enough for the Rangers, who have the 12th worst ERA in the American League. With an ERA of 12 and a lifetime 500 pitcher, Davis should fit right in with the Jays, who have the 2nd worst ERA in all of baseball. That's Skydome. John Bell for Global Sports.
Thank you, John. That record indicates they're 10-18. They did lose a game in March, so the April record was actually 10-17. Still the worst month. And they'll go into the month of May 11.5 games behind the Yankees. Colby Lewis, Roy Halladay will wrap it up tomorrow. 7:05 start. Jeez, they got to do better in May.
Look on the bright side. They're not the Tigers. Anyways, Expos and Brewers. 3-0 Brewers, top of the 4th when Jose Vidro drops into the left field. Andy Chavez trying to score, and he'll easily beat the throw to the plate. Thanks for taking away the dramatics. Expos were on the board, and it was just the start of good things to come. Could we be any more generic? Moments later, it's Orlando Cabrera with a base hit to left. Vidro will come in to score, and the Brew Crews lead is 3-0, and it's now cut to 3-2. And the 5-run fourth is capped by the 3-run shot up the bat of Jeff Leeper as he finds the 2nd deck in right. It's Leeper's 2nd homer of the season, and it's staked the Jays to a 5-3 lead en route to a 9-5 victory. Leeper with his 2nd homer drove in 3. Cabrera with his 4th drove in 2. Richie Sexton and Wes Helms rounding out the score sheet 9-5.
In New York, Yankees with a big lead on Seattle and a familiar face out of the pen. Mariano Rivera, sidelines in spring training with a groin injury, pitched tonight in his first appearance of the year. Gets John Mayberry to pop out to Hideki Matsui to end the ball game as the Yankees win at 8-5 over Seattle. They're 21-6, 3 games up on the Boston Red Sox in the American League East. Andy Pettit improved to 4-1. No save. Well, actually, there would have been a save. Yeah. 3-run difference. So, yeah, Rivera will pick up his first save of the season. And to be a top pick in this year's Canadian CFL draft, offensive lineman Steve Morley from St. Mary's in Halifax, taken by Calgary. The Stamps also had the 2nd pick and took another O-lineman, Joe McGrath from the Miami Hurricanes. Hamilton takes running back Julian Radeline from UBC. Edmonton, linebacker Emmanuel Cassius from Michigan. And Calgary again making defensive back Wes Lysak of Manitoba the number 5 pick. The only quarterback drafted, Laval's Matthew Bernard, taken 44th overall by Montreal. Actually, Matthew Bertrand. Sorry, Matthew. Still ahead on Global Sports, the International Sports Report with Peter Irvin.
And on the way out, the Global Sports Scoreboard. Welcome back. International Sports Report with Peter Irvin. The radio version with Lindsay O'Connor and the Fan 590 coming to our listeners.
4 till 6 Saturday.
From?
4 till 6 Saturday.
The location.
Oh, the location. Well, why did you say location?
I said from, okay?
Kleinberg. We're at Kleinberg Golf Country Club. Free meals, free drinks, soft drinks, of course. And we're going to compare it. So that means there'll be several members will be retiring.
You're going to compare it?
Comparing. compare it. Okay,
yeah.
let's...
Not at Purdy's Pub, but you're
geez,
at...
No. We're not slumming it this week.
Anyways, let's do a little local input here. Lynx soccer, A-League soccer. The Lynx, with a poor finish last year, presser today.
Well, poor finish for 2 seasons, Jim. Lack
Oh,
of goals,
sorry.
a lot of injuries, and I tell you, it just didn't come right for them. About the pre-season, well, group get-together looked very good. They've got new strips, so that's going to help them, I hope.
New?
Strips. Uniforms.
Oh.
Uniforms, okay? Strips. That's what they call it. But anyway, they had a lot of injuries last season. But, you know, seriously speaking about this, I had a chance to speak to the 6-year veteran, Brian Ashton, and he had these comments on the upcoming season.
Well, we look to better ourselves in goal scoring. Last year we had a bad start to the season, and we picked it up halfway through, and we hope to continue on the end of the season. We missed the playoffs by a couple of points, and I think we're going to be a team to compete with this year.
And those weren't the new strips?
No, absolutely not. They're hiding them, but the strips were there.
Right. Okay, we're talking about the Lynx, and they have 4 new players. That's what a lot of the optimism is built on, and one of them is from Europe.
Yeah, and this is exciting times here because Pinizzotto, who's the coach and general manager, I'll tell you, how can you be a coach and general manager? It's too heavy, too heavy for the job. But anyway, he had this to say on the new signing from Holland.
We're looking to add a couple of defenders, and Jan came at a perfect time for us. He's got a lot of experience, played in Netherlands for the 10 years, first division, and I could see already in the preseason games that it does bring a good leader on the field. And
we're going to play the English system. We're going to play 4-4-2. So I'm going to be one of the central defenders. I'll play in the center. Well, the game we played last week was I played together with Adrian in the center, and I'll be organizing the team. Adrian and I will be organizing the team from the last line.
So how good is this fella?
Oh, he's good. I mean, he's in his early 30s. He's going to bring a lot of experience to the team. He's, as he said, a central defender, but he can attack as well. And he's been in Japan. He's been in Albania. He's played in high-class soccer in Holland. So big things yet to come for the Lynx this season.
And I'm told the coach GM thing's only a problem if you have new owners. Anyways, the David Beckham situation, we've done some production here to sort of get the point across. We got some comments here from Man U Chief Executive Peter Kenyon. There's nothing to be negotiated. He'll be staying with United. We have absolutely no problems with him. And that was followed up by a statement from Real Madrid officials, which said that they have no intention of negotiating a transfer for any United player. So I'm assuming this is a done, dead deal. Nothing's going to happen.
Well, nothing's done and nothing's dead because money speaks, but, well, money talks, as they say. But, you know, Beckham is worth about $60 million, US dollars, on the open market. So whether Real Madrid or whether Inter Milan from Serie A pick him up is just questionable. But however, folks, remember this, that Juventus is playing Man United in New York in July 31st, which is a Thursday evening. The contracts are not going to be jeopardized because Juventus have to bring their full team, and so do United. So missing Beckham there could be a big, big loss on ticket sales.
All right, for the best in international sports, contact your local signal provider. Subscribe to Fox Sports World Canada. Check out the Arsenal-Leeds game live at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the golf course. We'll have playoff basketball from the West and some hockey and global sports for fans.
NBA playoffs tonight in Dallas. Mavericks a chance to put away Portland. Scottie Pippen trying to keep the team alive, playing for the first time in the series. Pick it up early in the second. Dallas up by 3. Dirk Nowitzki skips it to Nick Van Exel. Gets the 2 at 25 on the night, middle of the second. Blazers down by 10. Pippen into the paint. Kicks it out to Damon Stoudemire for the 3. Portland trail by 7. Seconds to go in the second. Mavs by 5. Van Exel. The alley-oop to Nowitzki. Had a game-high 35. Middle of the third. Blazers down 3. Bonzi Wells gives it to Stoudemire. He cuts into the paint, puts it in for 19 on the night. Late in the fourth, Blazers take their first lead of the game as Rasheed Wallace misses the first shot. Rebound comes back to him, and he nails the triple. Portland up by 1. Final seconds of the game. Portland will seal the deal as Wells misses the turnaround, but Arvydas Sabonis is there to tip it in, and the Blazers win. Stay alive, 103-99, so they're going back to Portland for Game 6, or as the feed would say, both teams played hard. Both teams played hard. Both teams played hard. Like he said that about 6 times post-game the other night, and they fined him 25 grand. Oh, Sacramento over Utah, 38-23 in the second quarter.
But he was actually.
Rashid, not the brightest light in the bulb, or brightest bulb in the string. Too Christmassy.
Could be a series circuit. You never know. Dallas and Anaheim scoreless early in the third. Thanks for allowing us into your homes. Good night.
See you tomorrow night.
All right, thanks, Jim and Don. Time to go back outside and rejoin Michael Coos with a look at the next 7 days weather-wise. Michael.
Still a wet night in downtown Toronto and across a good portion of southern Ontario. We will continue to see that moisture through the overnight period. Spotty into tomorrow afternoon, and there is a slight risk for some late-day thunder showers. But it will be warm midday, up to about 23 degrees. But we will have a cool down, still a wet day on Friday, warming up to about 14. Into the weekend, the sunshine returns, expecting about 11 degrees on Saturday. A beautiful day, though, for Sunday, up to 17 degrees. Outstanding on Monday. Unfortunately, it's Monday up to 24 degrees. We'll see it slightly cooler and a chance for showers on Tuesday and Wednesday. Back to you guys.
All right, straight home now, Michael.
All right. That is Global News for tonight. I'm Jacqueline Mulcharik.
And I'm Leslie Roberts for Michael Coos. And all of us here at Global News, thank you for watching.
Good night. Is he coming back tomorrow, or is he?
We'll have to wait and see.